Hi, this is Seth Greene, author of The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, turning warm, fuzzy feelings into cold, hard cash, and co-host of the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank and founder and CEO of Market Domination LLC.com. In my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I will share and discuss how to change your mindset to automatically improve your business results, how to get other people, 50 other micro influencers in your space to promote your business 50 weeks in a row, and how to protect yourself from all of the noise and avoid all of the shiny objects and learn how to focus on what actually will move the needle and trackably grow your business and allow you to help more people. Head on over to the show to catch the full episode.
And hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here. I am the host of the Business Growth Architect Show, and I want to welcome you to today's episode where we discuss how to navigate strategy and spirituality to achieve time and financial freedom. Truly successful people have learned how to master both, a clear intention and a strategy to execute that in a spiritual practice that will help them to stay in alignment and on purpose. Please enjoy the show and listen to what our guest today has to say about this very topic. Welcome back, everyone. Beate Gillette here, the host of the Business Growth Architect Show. And today I'm with Seth Greene from Market Domination. And as well, the name suggests, Seth, you come here with big plans. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm a big fan. It is an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. For somebody who's never heard about you, what do you do and what problem do you solve for your clients?
We grow your business so you can run it. So business development, business growth would be the problem that we solve. And we get others to grow your business for you so you can focus on doing the actual work.
That's amazing. I mean, who does not really want that? So one of the questions I want to really lead with here is, you make it sound so easy, right? Why do people not figure out how to grow their business? What is it that prohibits us as business owners to consistently grow our businesses?
I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think the biggest ones are probably have to do with spiritual and mental and emotional mindset. I don't think this is going to be controversial or heresy from a marketing CEO, but it isn't about the latest whiz-bang technique or app or network to be on. I have found myself that the biggest growth that our business have come when I make an evolutionary leap as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a leader. When I work on myself and make myself a bigger container, for lack of a better term, my business grows to fill it. So I think people get hung up in the tactics of the latest, greatest marketing tech or whatever it might be, or the emotional blocks of why they can't do it. And honestly, that's the last place I've learned the hard way. That's the last place that needs to be focused on. When you work on yourself more, everything else magically works better.
Well, you basically just explained the whole concept of our show. That's why I wanted you on the show, because it almost feels like there's a controversy. So as a marketer, how can you say something like this? Because last time I talked to any marketer, they went through Russell Brunson's funnel hacking academy, and they swear by it, and they might even been given an award for the best funnel hacker of the year and subscribe to all of that. And now you're telling me it may not really work for me. Why does this not work for everybody? Because Russell Brunson is a genius. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who disputes that. But what I do dispute is the number of people this actually works for.
So full disclosure, Russell's a friend. He's been on my podcast twice. He and I spoke on stage together at events before he ever invented ClickFunnels. So we go back a long way. And he has made it easier for people to build a business that generates leads online than anyone pretty much in history, which is why he is as successful as he is. However, I don't think you're one funnel away. You don't want to just hack someone else's funnel, because could you clone the funnel and swap everything out with your stuff? Yes, but that's not going to instantly duplicate the results, right? If I go clone the Trey Llewellyn or whoever that I know did $10 million and I swap in my t-shirt and then go, how come I'm not making any money? Because what you can't see behind the scenes is you can't see how Trey Llewellyn, in this example, drove traffic to his funnel. You can't see that he spent $5 million in an advertising budget to get $10 million in sales. You can't see what it cost him to deliver those $10 million in sales. You have no idea what he actually made on that. I met the other day a person who is one of the gurus of webinars and sells millions of dollars of courses in how to have a great webinar, which Russell also has a course on that. And when I was doing a consultation for their firm for marketing, I was like, well, this should be easy. Give me your webinar funnel and let us take a look at it and see how we can help. And they're like, well, we don't have one. I said, what do you mean you don't have one? You've made millions of dollars a year selling courses on why people should have a webinar funnel, and you don't have a converting webinar funnel that sells your real core service? No. Like, isn't that there's some cognitive disconnect and some integrity disconnect there. So you can't just copy someone else and automatically get the same results. Now, is Tony Robbins right? Does success leave clues? Of course it does. If there is someone in your industry who has done what you wanted, should you, if you could, pick their brain, find out how they did it, and learn from it? Yes. Should you be inspired in spirit from it? Yes. Should you wholesale just copy the external funnel that you can see? And is it automatically going to make you $1 million? Of course not. Because even if you did everything else the same, his beliefs are different. His experience is different. His relationships are different. The spiritual energy you bring to, I'm just going to copy this thing and make a bunch of money, is very different from the real growth of a business. So I think while there are hundreds of people, thousands of people that have become millionaires using ClickFunnels, I think if you surveyed, I'm making up the number, I don't know what it actually is, but if it's 2,000 of them and you surveyed them and said, how many of you hacked somebody else and it worked exactly the same way as the person you hacked, I think maybe you get a couple people at the most. I think most of those people were inspired by something, but the energy they put into it wasn't just, I'm going to spend $5 a day. I've been spoken on multiple panels at traffic events and stuff like that. And I will be the guy who disagrees with everyone else on the stage. And I remember an event I did in San Diego, and there were 6 other guru experts on the stage, and they were all like, spend $5 a day testing your Facebook ads and do this and this and this. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm glad I'm last. I'm going to disagree with every single one of them. If you put $5 a day, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't care about you, right? The algorithm does not care. It isn't, you can't treat this like a poor hobby and expect it to pay you like a business. Would you think I'm going to go buy a McDonald's for $5 a day and it's going to pay me $1 million in Big Macs? No, of course you wouldn't. You'd say, wow, I got to put millions of dollars to get this franchise and all this money into it for it to work. Well, real business works the same way, whether it's online or not. And you can't treat it like a hobby and expect it to work like a business. You got to work it like a business and then magically it'll work.
I love that. And I love your passion about that because I've been talking about this nonstop. I think that you need to have a business model first, and then you look at the tactics, and then you pick the different tactics. Let's talk about tactics. And I do also want to go back then to the spiritual aspect where you talked about the container, because that kind of language suggests a lot of personal development. So in terms of tactics, so let's say I'm scared right now. It's not working. Where do I start? Because I probably need to start with what I have and what I know and what worked before. Help our audience to figure out, how do I suppress my desire to buy another course?
That's a great question. So, and I love the suppressed. Yes, because the next shiny object is not going to save you.
No.
So I will, again, going to be a little bit controversial. I will tell you the reason it's not working is because you're scared. So one of my top 10 business books, favorite business and personal development books of all time, is The $4 Sandwich by Dr. Corey Melnikoff, who happens to be my brother-in-law, but has gone from one chiropractic location to close to 30, all about helping people. And one of my favorite quotes from that book is, who you are being affects how well what you do works. So if you are coming from a place of fear, of scarcity, of tariffs and taxes and Trump and whatever, and the economy, you're holding up a huge sign to the universe saying, give me more fear, give me more scarcity, give me more problems, right? My biggest thing every day is mindset, is what emotional state am I bringing to the table? And you have to find a way to get out of the fear, the scarcity mindset, because who's going to get attracted to you because of that? Other people like that, right? You have to be the charismatic leader or the inspirer. So for example, I work on this every day. As we record this was the first. My kids had been off on spring break for like 10 days. Today was the first day they went back. So I had a week to not get up at 6 a.m. And then my wife, thankfully, we've made a deal that like our oldest drives himself to school and she drives the two younger ones. If I get up at 6 unintentionally, my mental state is not what it should be. I'm just not that person. So this morning she got up, tried to be as quiet as possible, but I still got woken up at 6. I meditated for about an hour and a half, and then pure transparency, I listened to a couple different meditations each 30 minutes. I did them 3 in a row and still wasn't where I needed to be. Was still, for lack of a better term, slightly jittery. I'm like, I cannot go to work like this. I still have half an hour. I was like, you know what? Why am I still laying in bed meditating? And it's not working. Doesn't work every time. So I went and jumped in my cold plunge. And I live in Buffalo, New York. So my cold plunge doesn't need a chiller, right? It's already cold. A month ago, it was a frozen solid block of ice. Thankfully, it's thawed out enough that I can go in it. And in less than 2
Wim
minutes.
Hof would be proud of you.
Yes, that's where I got it from. And I did my Wim Hof breathing in my cold plunge. And 2 minutes later, I was in a fantastic mood. And I said, damn it, I should have done this at 6 and just gotten 2 hours extra of work in. So I'm not perfect. I work on it every single day. But whether it's in my cold plunge isn't fancy. Like literally you could bought on Facebook Marketplace for $100, $200. It doesn't have a motor. It's just a thing you fill with water. And in Buffalo, if you leave it outside, it's cold most of the year. So whether it's meditating or if the cold plunge hadn't worked, I would have worked out for half an hour. Like you got to do something to get into a positive emotional state before you are attempting to do any business acquisition, business development, business service. We tell that to clients if they come to us and go, geez, I've been burned before. I hired 7 other marketing firms. I really don't think this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. I will say, no, I don't want your money. Because if you believe that, no matter what we do, it won't work. If you come to us excited going, oh man, I can't wait to do this and help more people, then we'll take your money because we know it'll work. It's all about the mindset and the energy you're putting in.
When was the first time you realized you needed to be so protective of your mindset? Was there an event?
Wow, that's a really good question. I don't know if there was a blinding lightning flash of, oh my God, this is the day. There have been many. When my brother-in-law published his book helped. I've done Unleash the Power Within twice with Tony. I've done Date with Destiny once. I think Date with Destiny was probably my most recent event, like type of breakthrough, as opposed to just having it on my own. But now I'll try and brainstorm, and if I can come up with one, I'll shoot you an email, but I don't remember off the top of my head where I'll go back and look through years of journals and see if I wrote down today is the day.
You know, I found that typically when such a massive transformation happens or it finally clicks, you are at a point that's anything but this. And you're just tired feeling a particular type of way. And you're willing to do whatever it takes to figure out how to not feel like that.
Yeah, Tony says that the day it becomes a must is the day you change. It doesn't take you 20 years to quit smoking. It's 1 minute decision of I am now a non-smoker, and you change your identity.
Exactly. And I think that goes back into, I think, part of what we're talking about in a marketing conversation, no less, is that you can't lead people to something unless they're ready for it. And that's what fascinates me about our conversation today, because you're saying it very clearly, don't even think about picking up the phone unless you're in a state where something positive can come from this action. So the first thing that I must do is so if I sit here and I say, oh, shoot, I haven't followed up on my LinkedIn, I haven't done my outreach, man, it's already 3:00. You said, just don't even bother.
Yes, I would, if you have time. So this assumes a couple luxuries, right? It assumes that you have the luxury to change your emotional state before you do those things, right? My wife jokes and tells me, and my staff tells me they know what mood I'm in when they read my emails. And I think I wrote the exact same email. So I had a breakthrough I think it was literally less than 60 days ago. And my admin office manager came in and said, what did you do? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, what have you been doing about yourself? Like I'm like, what are you talking? Why are you asking me this? And she said, I can tell there is something different about you because you all of a sudden have emojis in your emails, right? She's like, you did something.
Busted.
Your communication has improved.
Okay.
It is. I mean, you could change your emotional state. Like I wasted 90 minutes trying to grit through it, meditating this morning. Honestly, in the first 20, I should have said, screw this and go in the cold plunge or gone and worked out because it would have moved me faster. But I had a mental block this morning going, it's 6:30. I don't want to go in the cold. I don't want to go work out at 6:30. I should have just done it.
I don't blame you for not wanting to go in a cold plunge in Buffalo at 6:30 in the morning. I mean, just from an empathetic.
I appreciate. Well, I was like, no, I'm doing it. I'm done messing around, and I felt fantastic. I was like, I should have done this an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, sometimes what helps me is to listen to a particular type of ceremonial music because it really takes me. I feel like it opens up all my channels, and I can really feel what it feels like to be connected to energy and to this sort of space, and then it helps me to receive the information that I need, and I can fill my body with the energy and the positivity and the belief, and then I can go back and do my phone calls. Fascinating. So, all right. So now we've covered that we actually need to start at the top, at the head, at the mindset, and get ourselves in a state where we can feel positivity, calm. Like, what is there a particular state you're trying to achieve? Like, what state is it? Is there any way we can describe it?
Positive expectation, happy, excited, optimistic, confident. So I think I'm looking at my Date with Destiny poster, like for me personally, the most important emotional state to be in is a state of certainty of I'm excited. Whatever it is going to work.
Do you use the more spiritual aspect of what is yours and it'll come naturally to you? Or are you with the expectation that this thing will happen?
So I'll borrow a quote from someone else. I don't know who said it, but it's pray like everything depends on God, work like everything depends on you.
Okay.
So I'm all for, I've got the affirmations and the incantations and the prayers writing them, and I've got all that. And I know that I can't just sit cross-legged, meditate and go, I want a Ferrari. I have a Ferrari, right? I got to go work my whatever off to actually make the money to pay for said Ferrari. It's not showing up in my driveway unless I can write the check.
Okay. So there's a practicality to it, which I really appreciate about you because you seemingly combine the woo-woo, as many people call it, with the practical, which is why I created this show, because I wanted to show that successful people utilize these principles. It's because they're not woo-woo, they're scientific. They're proven. They're proven to work. It's it's the way we control our thinking. It's what we allow to bring into our lives. But you still have to take the actions because it's not going to be popping in your lap. So now I want to go back to marketing. You are talking about traditional transactional marketing methods, and then you talk about the better method, which is the one that you developed. Do you want to help us understand the difference?
Sure. So I think that what's, forgive the term, perceived as sexy is the shiny new object, the new course, the new social network. Oh, I got to be on TikTok. Oh, I got to have a membership site on school, whatever that thing is. And crypto. Oh, instantly 75 days later, everyone's got a crypto course, right? And we're all going to make $1 million with some algorithm trading crypto. And instantly there's crypto gurus. And I think that you can't do tactics unless you have the right strategy, and you got to have the right mindset that fuels that. So one of the strategies that we are most known for, which is I think where you're headed, is our concept of growing your business by yourself can be challenging. Get other people to do it for you. Whoever your ideal customer, client, patient, prospect is, someone else, and probably a lot of someone's in your market, whether it's local, national, or regional, has your customers as their customers, and they don't compete with you. They are your co-opetition, not your competition. And we created a 5-step framework process for getting 50 of those cooperators, forgive the made-up word, 50 of those people to promote your business to their audience 50 weeks in a row, and thus give you most of the business growth that you're going to need without probably spending $1 on ads or shiny objects.
It sounds absolutely amazing. It's sort of a referral on steroids.
Absolutely. We figured, yes, I, out of desperation myself years ago, worked with Dan Kennedy and Chet Holmes to figure out a way to put word of mouth on steroids intentionally. Because if you ask most businesses, where do you get most of your business? A lot of it is word of mouth and referrals. And then if I ask the question, okay, your spouse needs life-saving surgery tomorrow, health insurance won't cover it, it's going to cost you an extra $1 million, and you need it in 24 hours. Can you go triple the number of organic referrals you get in 24 hours to make that happen? And everyone says, of course not. I said, what if there was a way to actually scale word of mouth?
Well, now we need to know what the system is.
Yes. So
no, my fingernails are hanging on the cliff in anticipation.
thank you for that visual. So I call it the Dream 50 process, DREAM, every letter. It's an acronym. D stands for define, and I'm going to do a 2-minute version of it here. I wrote an entire book on it. We've got an hour-long webinar on it, all of which we're happy to make available to your listeners and viewers. But we got to define who is our ideal client, who else serves them, and where do those micro influencers, or if we're national, maybe they're real bigger influencers, where do they hang out? So that's a define step. Then you've got to reach out to those people, right? And that could be email, could be phone, could be snail mail, could be social media, depending on what contact information you have. Then the biggest the E step is for engage. How do I get that person to say yes? Because I'm not coming out of nowhere and saying, hi, B, you don't know me, but promote me to your audience, right? That's spammy. But if I said, hey, I'd like to feature you on my podcast and promote it to all of my listeners and all of my email lists and all my social media followings, you say, awesome, I would love to do that. So my first step, really, the first visible step, is getting you to be on my podcast. So now, listeners, viewers of the show, congratulations, you're all now podcasters if you weren't before. I want you to have a podcast because it is the greatest networking tool ever invented, in my humble opinion, and it is a great way to build a relationship, because what better way? Everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everyone's favorite topic to talk about is themselves. So if I have you on my podcast and let you talk about yourself for 30 minutes, you will fall in love with me. Not literally, but you will love the process. I did this for 3 hours as an experiment with someone sitting next to me on a plane. And at the end, they said, you're the best conversationalist I've ever talked to. And I said, really? Because I asked you like 4 questions and you talked for 3 hours. So apparently they thought I was the most interesting person. They said, you're the most interesting person. I said, you don't know a damn thing about me. You didn't ask me any questions. You talked, but you think I'm interesting because I was interested. So be interested in someone. Interview that ideal influencer for half an hour. Then you're going to create social media content and all that other stuff. You're going to take your 10 to 12 best interviews and put them in a book, publish a book, and get them to promote the book because they're in it. And I got an Amazon best-selling book on the topic. Then I've got to turn them into a real relationship, because right now all you did was promote that you were on my show. So there's a separate 5-step process to get someone to go from thank you for having me as a guest on your show to I'm going to tell my whole world they should go directly buy your stuff. I'm going to tell them to go to your webinar. I'm going to tell them to take advantage of your offer, whatever that thing might be. And then once they're doing that, and I basically turn them into an affiliate or a joint venture partner or referral partner, whatever word you want to use, they're driving traffic to me. They're people that they've endorsed saying, hey, go check Seth out, right? Then I've got to have a way to capture those leads, connect with hopefully, the irresistible offer. I've got to connect with them and deliver what I promised. And then I've got to convert them into someone who ultimately, if they're the right fit, is giving us actual money. So that's the fastest lightning round version I've ever done of what is normally a 60-minute to 3-day workshop.
Well, but you can say it simply, which means it must work. I find that people that take a long time to explain something, Albert Einstein said, if you can say it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So that is actually a litmus test, I think, that we all as business owners have to pass. Can we say what we do in a short amount of time, or can we not? Because then you haven't flushed it out yet. So you also talk about different platforms. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this. What's the right platform for me?
I have no idea. And you don't either. Because people just go with whatever's the new thing, right? TikTok is all the rage. So my daughter's got my wife onto TikTok. So then I had to build her a following on TikTok. And now she has, 14,000 followers on TikTok. So she got seduced by the shiny object of the new thing, right? So what platform is right for you? isn't, it should be based on where your target market hangs out, right? If you are trying to reach 80-year-old widows with arthritis, TikTok and Snapchat aren't for you. They're not there yet in large numbers. Direct mail would work. Facebook would work because they're on, like my mother's on Facebook, not to connect with people from high school, but to watch the pictures of my kids, that her grandkids that my wife posts, right? That's why she's on, to see what her grandkids are doing every day. So I think you got to think backwards, and you got to start at the beginning and go, who is my target market? Where do they spend their time? That's what platform you should be on.
And that changes.
Yeah, it does.
Constantly. Yeah. I will say that I find Twitter is absolutely useless because it's just a vile incest pool of just negativity. And I find that really, truly a waste of time and energy. And I
And
find
for
that
somebody else, Twitter's the perfect place. It's just not for you.
exactly.
But someone who wants the vile incest pool of negativity as their client, Twitter's their dream.
Pillows, anyone, right? So I think it really depends. You're absolutely correct. What resonates with you? I'm actually finding, I don't know if you have any experience with Substack yet, but that's a medium I've become extremely interested in because it feels like the resistance or the thought leaders have gone over there and it's creating its own little culture of, I already can see some of the internet marketing techniques infiltrating. But for the most part, it feels that there is a lot of really good conversations to be had because it's not so overrun. So people still take time to comment and respond. So it's a really good platform to explore, certainly for me right now. LinkedIn, what are your thoughts on LinkedIn? Everybody talks about LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn a good platform?
Depends on if your target market is there. So I love LinkedIn. All of my target market, all of my business to business target markets are there. I use it every single day. We developed our own LinkedIn software because none of the programs in the marketplace, all of the dozens of automation programs I tried, would do what I wanted. So we built our own that works better because it's got human oversight. It's not just AI gone crazy. So for me, for our B2B clients, love LinkedIn, generate qualified, interested leads every single day. If you want stay-at-home moms, LinkedIn's probably not for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I like this idea of the framework. The framework works when you are going to go to the place where your potential client is. Is there any recommendation you have on how many of these channels somebody should use? Because I know people who try to do all of them.
Me too. And the problem is it's exhausting. And then they're using automation tools and they're repurposing content on different platforms, but they're not changing it to be native to that platform. So it doesn't work as well as they had hoped. So no, I don't think you need to be on all the platforms all the time, all at once. I think I would say pick the platform that the majority of your client base, of your desired client base, spends the most time on. Plant your flag on that platform and get really good at that platform. And when you have, so one platform, one target market, one platform, one offer. And then when you've mined all of the gold in that platform, or you've mined so much you can afford to diversify and pay someone to help you go on another platform, then add another platform. But these people just starting out and we're going, I got to be on 17 different networks. You don't really. And you would, instead of going wide and narrow, I'd rather you go shallow. I'd rather you go deep as opposed to trying to do a little bit on everything. I'd pick the one that's most likely going to be successful for you and go deep on that one. Narrow and deep.
I love it. And as we're closing out, I want to ask you, you talk about initial outreach is good online, but then you have to take it offline.
So to me, the one platform that's never going to go away and delivers like nothing else is honestly direct mail. Because think about, even if you had a fabulous relationship with your email list and half of them open every email you send, that still means half aren't seeing anything. And when was the last time you said, oh my God, this email is amazing, I'm going to save it forever? Probably never. So direct mail, there's no spam rules. I can get straight to you, avoid any gatekeepers, and it's got perceived value, and I can show up like nobody else. Like I can show up, I can send lumpy direct mail. If my prospect's worth enough, I could spend hundreds of dollars to get one package in front of them and get a really incredibly high response rate that I'll never get in terms of just email. Everyone just defaults to email because it's cheap to send and it's scalable. Well, I'd rather get, instead of a spray and pray approach, I'd rather, forgive the military term, I'd rather have a laser guided sniper rifle and actually hit my target.
That is so Dan Kennedy, the lumpy mail. Yeah.
Grew up with Dan. He's where I learned it started. We still send millions of pieces of direct mail to this day because it works better than almost anything else. So I'm
That's
happy to
amazing.
generate the lead online, but if I can get our clients to add offline follow-up, their conversion rates will get much higher.
That's unbelievable. All right. As we're closing this, is there anything that you want to add that I should have asked you where you go, we need to cover this one thing
I
before I
think
let
you
everybody
did
go?
a fantastic job. Am I allowed to give your listeners someplace to go to learn more?
Well, if we don't add another piece of wisdom, we're going to tell them where to get the wisdom. So go ahead.
Yes. So my 9th Amazon bestselling book is The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, How to Turn Warm, Fuzzy Feelings into Cold, Hard Cash. And it's a deep dive on some of the things we've been talking about today. You can get special for our podcast listeners here today. You can get 30% off the Amazon price if you go to ultimatepodcastbook.com.
Okay. Excellent. Wonderful. So one call to action, keep it simple, no confusion. It's been really fabulous. I do this a lot. This is definitely one of my favorites because I feel like you let me ask you questions and you answered honestly and enthusiastically, and you really combine both. Like, I believe what you tell me, and that's the most important thing that I want to bring to my audience is it real? Do we believe what he's bringing to our audience? And you certainly fulfilled that. So for that, I'm very grateful to you. So thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It's been an amazing interview. I've done thousands and I'm really, really pleased. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. And that is it for us for today. Thank you so much for listening to or watching this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show. Now, if you know someone who's struggling with marketing because they cannot figure out the magic formula, please send them a copy of the link to this show so they can listen to it and maybe get some ideas on how they can be more successful in marketing. And with that, I say goodbye. So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star review, a comment, and share this episode with one more person so that you can help us help more people. Thank you again. Until next time. Goodbye.